So now we're on to the icing, and I'm going to make a glaze icing, not a royal icing, even though royal icing is, I think, a little bit more like the goal for like a sugar cookie is to have a royal icing on top, because it kind of gives it a bit of like a candy coating, like it kind of has, I think, that crack to it. However, it requires kind of specialty ingredients that I just don't have and couldn't be bothered to find. However, in the defense of the recipe that I found, it's kind of telling you how glaze icing is a lot easier than royal icing, and royal icing is kind of a pain to find these things, and you have to special order and whatnot. So I just was like, sold, I'll just make glaze. And then when I was at just generic grocery store that I go to, they had the specialty item that is needed for the royal icing. However, I didn't know what else was needed. And in hindsight, happy that I didn't do that, because that requires a lot more work than this does. But if this somehow fails and burns real hard, I do have a backup plan of cream cheese frosting and black icing to do details. And then I will at least be able to do the ghosts and possibly like one or two of the black cats and hats and bats and whatnot with the black icing. But yeah, I mean, going into this, my goal was to make the ghosts, and then the pack that I bought had all of the other shapes with it. And so I had to improvise. So yeah, I had to get some food coloring and had to get creative. So it should be a good time, but backup plan just in case. But we'll run through the ingredients for the icing, and then we'll get into, it's not really cooking, but like mixing. Powdered sugar, whole milk, corn syrup, vanilla extract, salt, and food coloring. So the first step is really kind of the only step for the icing making process. The other steps are going to be the actual like coloring and then decorating. Pretty much put everything into the bowl, mix it up. I'm gonna do like the wet ingredients together first and then add in the sugar slowly afterwards, because I've made icing or like a glaze, I think like a handful of times. And if you put, well, the battery on that just died. So I don't know how visually it looks now, but we'll proceed because I'm almost done with the steps. If you're like mixing it all up, it gets like very hard to mix and like thick. So like if you add the powdered sugar little bit by little bit, it's much easier process to make the glaze. I will say the recipe calls for 3 to 4 tablespoons of milk, and you're only putting in 3, and then the 4th one is kind of a safety net. If the glaze is too thick, then add the 4th one in. The reverse side of that, if it's too thin, you can add more powdered sugar and that'll kind of thicken it up. So the next step is to dye first you need to separate out the glaze into different dishes, and then we're gonna add the food dye to those. And the colors that we're gonna make are orange, green, black, and then like white, but I mean, the white is just leaving the glaze untouched. In terms of quantity, obviously you can make whatever colors and amounts that you want, but I'm gonna make a little bit of green because I only really need that for the stem of the pumpkin, and then a fair bit of orange for all the pumpkins, a lot of black because the cat, the hat, and the bat, which all of those rhyme, just realized that. All of them are like, the body is black, and then the ghost is predominantly white, so like a decent bit of white, and then the facial features on the ghost will be black, so I'll need some more for that. However, in the video you will see a lot of confusion because I forgot how many colors I needed. I think I had too many bowls, and I was like dishing out. I think I was like thought I had like 5 colors that I was making, and I'm like, no. And yeah, so like if it's a little confusing and like stuff getting moved around between cuts because I don't know how I'm gonna edit this, just know that I was probably more confused than however it visually looks, because my mind was just unraveling. I don't understand what this is such like an easy recipe, and I'm just losing it. Make some beautiful colors, whatever you see fit, and yeah, just go do that. So the next step is going to be to put the icing in piping bags, or in my case, sandwich bags. Real cheap sandwich bags too, not even like fancy Ziploc name brand. These are just like, I don't even know what store brand I bought, but they don't even have the seal. They're just like the tuck and roll ones. So yeah, I'm using the most high quality of tools in my endeavors, and it definitely won't bite me in the butt. It will. It definitely will. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but you're also gonna see my first attempt at icing. I then shut off the camera and then made the other like 3 dozen, and I got a lot better. So I should have probably filmed the first 5, right? 5, yeah, and then the last 5 to show my improvement in skill. I got a little bit of a technique that I developed over time, but you're not gonna see that. I'll talk about that in like the kind of outro step. But yeah, there was a little bit of learning that needed to be done. Because like I've seen people ice cookies before, and it did not work the same way for me. It might have been the sandwich bags, so I would recommend just spending the money and buying proper piping bags, but that's neither here nor there. A bad craftsman blames his tools. It's the bag's fault. After you ice all the cookies, remember you need to let them sit and kind of dry for 3 hours at least, or like overnight. Once again, another big time chunk of waiting. here we have it. Some of the cats I try to put whiskers on, and but the ghost I'm the most proud of in my kind of technique shift, because the first one that you saw, I tried to pipe like from the sandwich bag the eyes and the mouth. Also, I try to give it a smile. Obviously, it needs a kind of circular mouth because it's going ooh. But the technique that I figured out was using the back of a spoon, like one of these bad boys. Mine are kind of like pointy, so like if you have a flat one, it might not work. Which in that case, maybe like a toothpick or something. I just kind of like dipped it in the black frosting and just kind of doop doop, and then got a little bit more of a glob, and then went boop, and that gave me the mouth, and that worked extremely well. So I'm happy with that. So now it's the moment of truth. We'll give it a taste test, and we're looking for, you know, I don't, to be fair, I don't know what we're looking for, but I'm just excited for the orange flavor, like to be there. So if it doesn't have a strong orange flavor, ooh, I could have probably put some orange juice in the glaze itself. That would have been good. Hindsight 2020. All right, so let's give this a taste test and then critique. That's pretty good. So I will say, that's pretty tasty. I'm happy with that. You definitely kind of taste the orange in there. And it's not overpowering, it's just kind of like subtle. It is very sweet because obviously there's a lot of like sugar in the icing and like and in the cookie itself. I mean, it's a sugar cookie, come on. I mean, I've only had one. So I feel like if you limit yourself to one, it's not sickeningly sweet. It definitely has like sweetness to it. But yeah, I would say overall, very tasty. I'm happy with how that turned out. Now, would I ever do this again? Probably not, because of how much time it took, and like all of the icing just killed my back. Because like even though this is higher up, my brain is like I need to have my face closer to it to like see the details and stuff like that. And so I'm like crouching over and my back still hurts. It didn't help that I ran 5 miles today, so that I probably shouldn't have done that. But yeah, like these are good. I just don't think I'd do it again, at least not like solo. Like this could be like a fun little group activity where maybe I'd make the cookies and then like we'd ice them together. But I'd recommend the proper equipment for the icing, and yeah, that probably would make things night and day. It's easy enough, it just takes a lot of time, and then which is kind of, I don't know, but like the filming stuff maybe just like unraveled. Maybe I just had like a busy week or something. But the mental strain of this one was kind of a lot, and I don't know why. But like in hindsight, like looking at like the steps, nothing too difficult. It's just time. I mean, I recommend it, but at the same time, maybe make this a group activity to soften the blow. Or I think I'm just having one of those, a rough week per se. So I might just be looking at it through those lens. But yeah, I mean, these are tasty. I'm going to, I might need to, I almost just poured them everywhere. That would have been bad. So I'm going to stop before I destroy all of the cookies that I spent 3 days making. And yeah, so on that note, bye Mom, still not dead. See ya.